Thanks for checking out our channel. Here's going to be a little troubleshoot repair video on this particular unit. This is on a Gallagher M800 old orange case unit. I think this might be a good one to show some people. Now when you plug it in, it operates just fine. You know, clicking, the lights coming on over here, lights flashing over here, just like it normally should. And we'll test it. Voltage is a little low. It's only about 4,000 volts, so that's a problem. So I was like, well, need a new transformer. So I was like, you know, what the heck? Because originally I didn't even check the output. I just plugged in. Well, it's clicking and flashing. Well, that must be good. So we have this wire that we hook to our ground side of our outlet, and run the wire out of there, and we touch it to the ground side. We call that I always call it a ground fault test. But you touch the ground side, in a normal working unit on this, it should still click and flash and do its job. Now, watch when I touch this wire to the ground side. Watch what the light does, and then listen to what it sounds like. See, the light goes out and it sounds different. See, it doesn't sounds higher pitch. So the transformer's got an internal short in itself. I mean, yeah, it's got low voltage coming out of it. It should be like 6,000-7,000 volts out of it versus like 4. So that's an issue. But even if it's showing 6,000 or 7,000 volts, you do the ground fault test, and it does exactly what it did there, the transformer is still bad. So capacitor board, all this is fine. This board's not an issue, but the output transformer is definitely bad. So we're going to turn it this way. We're going to take a flat screwdriver. We're going to pull this little flap back here, a little tab. Pull it back because it's overlapping on top of the output board. We're going to pull it back, get a flat screwdriver right next to it, and apply up on the board. This kind of gets it up out of the way of that black flap there. And then we got a screwdriver down here in the corner, a flat one. Going to get between the board and the case, and kind of push on it to get it separated over there. Same thing over there. And then once you get it kind of wiggled loose from that stuff, it pulls right out of there. There's the transformer. We're going to pull this board out of the way too, because we got to get access to the wiring here. We're going to unplug these two wires at the bottom. These are your primary input side of the transformer. That's where the wires are at. So we're going to unplug those, and then we got to pop this clamp off there. Go over there and pop that off, and then we'll go down right in here. Push the clamp out of there like that. And you got these metal plates. Now, some of these Gallagher models like this, unit had a ground wire off the back of the transformer. Some of them did, some didn't. I don't know, different versions had it on there. But we're going to unplug that. We're actually going to get rid of all this stuff here, this plates, because the transformer we're going to put in there is because they don't make a transformer like this anymore. We have a custom built one for these things, but I'm out of them right now. So I'm going to keep these. I see a little hole right there and a burnt side of it, so that's definitely a telltale sign it's bad. But sometimes you pull them out and they're fine. They don't look bad. They are bad. I'm going to keep these metal plates because I can use them in other applications for other things. Transformer is going to go in the trash. We're not even going to use the clamp anymore because the transformer I'm going to install doesn't require it. This clamp is just there to hold these lamination plates, they call it, in place. Now we're going to cut the wire down here. This green wire, we don't need it anymore on this setup that we're going to install. So now what I need, I need a transformer, so let me go grab that. Alright, here's the transformer that we're going to install. This is another Gallagher transformer, but we're going to retrofit it into this case here. But this has got a 4 tabs on it. It's pretty easy to install once you get the case modified. It goes right in there. There's 4 tabs on here. There's big wires and skinny wires. Big wires right here. Let's kind of look on the side of this. This kind of I always remember. The big wires are your primary input side, so these are the ones that are going to go down, wire up to these wires down here. And these two are your secondary, the skinny wires that doesn't have anything along the side. That's your secondary side. That's what goes to your fence and ground. But see, the board, this transformer won't sit inside there. It hits the black case right there. If this is a little wider, it'd go right in there. So what we have to do, we need a drill. And then we need a somewhat bigger drill bit. This isn't the one I want to use. This is a little small, but it'll do the job. We're going to drill down in this little hole. We're going to drill straight down, and we're going to hit. Basically, what we want to do is chew out this corner here, as well as down there in this little spot there, and do the same thing over here in this corner, and drill all the way down, hit this piece here. We don't want to drill too deep, and then drill right through the bottom of the unit. This bit was a little bit bigger. It chipped more of the plastic that we want. So I get right on the edge there of where that corner is, just on the inside of the edge there. Okay, so some of it's gone, but now we need to take some cutters. And what the drill bit did for us was kind of get rid of most of the plastic without having to chew through a bunch of it. So I'll take a pair of cutters. I use these, and we're just going to get rid of the edges of that around that hole, just to kind of make it a little bigger. I do it on top and the bottom down here. Show where I'm cutting at here. Just inside the hole. It's kind of thick plastic. There it is. And do the other side. To kind of get it cracked and broken a little bit. And go in there and grab with a pair of pliers and pull out piece of plastic there. You see now it's opened up quite a bit. And we'll do the same thing over here on this corner. Same down at the bottom. I think that will just do the one side, we'll see. Should just sit in just like this because we're trying to make room for these little corner pieces. It sits right in there just like that. Now the way we'll keep this thing from sliding around, because it is going to want to bounce around, is you can epoxy and glue it into place, but then if you ever have to change it, which is very rare, this transformer is very reliable. If you epoxy it, may have a nightmare getting it out of there. So what we'll do is we'll put some double-sided foam tape on the bottom side there to keep it in place, but we'll do that last. Or, hey, Dad, you got any double-sided tape there? Two strips of it on there. And I'm going to put it to where the primary is on the right hand side. Just like that. I'm going to push down, get that tape to stick, and as time goes on, the rest of today and overnight, that will really stick to all the plastic and kind of cure, kind of really stick itself there and everything. So that's one step. Now the next thing we got to do, I'm going to get a different bit. Get one of these stepper bits here, and I'm just going to go right about there, right about the middle. A hole about that big, but size big around as a pinky, and I'm a little smaller. And put another hole just next to it. And what those holes are for is basically where these wires were plugged on the bottom. We're basically making new holes up top here, since these are blocked off and the tabs are up versus down. That's where we're going to run the wires at. So now we need some wiring. Got this wire here. And I'm going to, this is number 14 gauge wire, so it's plenty big enough for the primary side. There's black and red, but there's not really a polarity. There kind of is, but most time there's not on these transformers. But we'll find out because we can always flip those wires around if we need to. But we need a couple of female spade connectors. It's usually these fully insulated ones. And we'll crimp those down. Hold it on right here. And we'll do the same thing on the red one. Crimp that wire, or crimp that spade connector on there. And plug it in down there. Hopefully I made these wires long enough, so we'll shove them through like that. This black one's definitely long enough. Alright, so we got a black and a red wire, or brown and red wire, which, like I said, there's not really a polarity, but they just do that for, or they did that for, like, mostly just to keep it easy for manufacturing and assembly. But we'll go ahead and we'll try to just keep the red wires together, and then the brown will go to the black. So now we're going to cut that off, strip that back, strip that back, and what we do is we solder and heat shrink. The brown one will snip that off, strip it back, just cut it back like right there. Alright, now we're going to tin the wires with some solder, both on the wires coming through and the wires that are already over there. Add solder to both sets. So heat it up, and then we'll run solder along there. Let it flow and cover the whole thing in solder. Could use butt connectors, but this is more sounds like the capacitor's not discharging it. What did the back side of the longboard look good? Alright, and some heat shrink. Heat shrink on there. Now we'll put a little solder on the iron there, and then we'll side by side, and we'll just heat them both up together and reflow them, so that way they kind of fuse together as one piece like that. We'll do the same thing over here between the reds. Maybe that caused it. Alright, so now we're going to take these wires, we'll bring them up, put them over solder joints, get this heat gun. Huh? Well, that's where it discharges from. We might check that bottom SCR again, because if that was open, it wouldn't let discharge. Maybe blew that SCR again. Okay, let's get the strap pulled loose real quick. The pass should sit down flat like it's supposed to. Alright, get this board reinstalled. We're pretty much done with the wiring on the transformer side. Straighten these out. Alright, now the primary side's all done. Now we gotta get secondary side over here into here. Alright. So I'm going to get some wire here. You get some smaller gauge wire on the secondary side, because it doesn't, not as much current on the secondary side as the primary side. We're going to crimp on. Hey, you getting those red spade connectors? Yeah, I don't have. I got the blue ones. They're awful big for this little wire. Just two. I can always order another bag of them, but if you got some, I can steal from you. Alright, now we'll crimp on. plug that one on here. I want to make it kind of long. I can trim it back to length as I need to. That long there. I'm sure we'll have to trim some of this up. Okay, so now this is what going to go back in there, but we've got two ways of attaching these wires to this board. We need to crimp on some nail spades and plug those up into these two slots right here, which were the old transformer used to plug up at, or we can solder them to there. I'd probably just prefer this to crimp some nail spades. One there. Let me get this down inside here real quick. I want to just look at some stuff first before I call it good. That's what I thought. Let's pull this board back out. Now what I want to do is this tab right here is really darn close to the board, so we want to bend that down away. The one's wire's still plenty long enough, and we're going to plug in it right there. But I think we're gonna trim some of this off. I don't need that much. Strip some back. Take one of these non-insulated male spade connectors. We can solder or crimp it on there. We're just going to crimp. That's going to go into this slot right there. This one, I think this is plenty long enough that we can just leave it as it is. I don't think we need to trim off any more. Put that one on there. Slide those up inside there. Same thing as this right over here. Ow. And we'll get that board back up to go in there. The little tabs are in the, or the little sleeves are in the way a little bit. There's that. Okay, now this unit will be a bit quieter than it was before because that transformer is fully encased in epoxy, where this transformer is encased in epoxy, but the metal plates were exposed. There are metal plates inside that unit, that transformer, but they're all inside and encased in epoxy, which muffles the sound basically. With these plates being out in the open, the sound was able to radiate out, so that's why these older ones were a lot louder, because of the metal plates being exposed and not sealed. clicking, flashing, not near as loud as it was. Now there's a trick to make it louder. It's kind of a jerry-rigged thing on the inside of outside of the orange case, on the inside of the orange case, and it kind of gets in the way of things, so I'm not probably going to do that. But let me put a tester on here. It should be 6,000 to 7,000 volts or higher. 7,000 volts. I got plugged in the same outlet that had that ground fault wire plugged into it. So I'll take that same little black wire, put it across the ground terminal. It didn't change, so the light's still flashing, so our issue is fixed. This unit is done. Now here's I'll show you something real quick. You take these metal plates, and I'm going to put it on the side of this transformer, just kind of touch, lean it up against the side of the transformer right here, and watch how loud this thing gets. It's just these things radiate sound out of them because the magnetic field inside this transformer is pretty stout. I mean, what we possibly could do, quick and dirty way of doing it maybe, is now we could this could be done with epoxy. We'll take the screw out of this. I could take a small amount of them and maybe glue them to the side of the transformer possibly, so it does. The magnetic field makes those things bounce. Crazy. With the inductance and the magnetic field inside the transformer between the primary and secondary, has a lot of pull to it. So let's take some of this. Something art. Probably on the see a connection. Any more of the connections look. What about that the other short black wire? Take some electrical tape. We're going to tape it a couple different spots to keep those plates. Did it pop against the transfer capacitor? When you discharge, okay. What's the transformer backside of its backside of the transformer look funny at all? Where those wires plug on at, and if it looks funny on the backside of it at all, so we can't see because it's stuck in there. Plug this back in real quick. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some two-part epoxy here. We're going to swirl a little bit over here on this piece of paper. Don't need a lot. It's a gel epoxy, so it doesn't run. It stays pretty much in its place, and it's not self-leveling type. We'll take a stir stick, basically. We'll mix the two epoxies together, the resin and the hardener. I'm just going to put a little bit down there, some in the middle, some on the very end. Spread it around on there, and then we'll take this, put it at the bottom, and just kind of press it up against the transformer here. We'll hold it there for a moment. Okay, so it takes about half an hour or so. It says 5 minutes, but it depends how thick the layer is you put on there, or the epoxy. But we'll put, we'll give it like 30 minutes before, I'm going to plug it in here in a minute, but it should hopefully stay in place. But before we start jacking around too much more, we'll give it some time to let the epoxy really start to cure. And once you give it the full 24 hours, basically it'll be hard as a rock, and that stuff will that plate, those plates will basically be on there forever. I'll put a little bit more, one more spot, mix it just a little bit more epoxy. And put some on the top of the plates to help keep them, together. It's basically ready to go in a little while. Let's just plug it in real quick, see what it sounds like. The plate's still moving, but that's because the epoxy's not all hardened up. So this one's basically done. So we're going to put off the side. Before I put the lid back on, we'll let the epoxy cure better. That way I know that once I put the lid on there, these things aren't going to move. But I appreciate you watching my video here. So one of 900 plus videos as of summer of 2023. Videos that we have on YouTube. So if you pick a brand or model unit, probably find a video on it about us. So throw our links down in the description below if you have to find out more about us, to our links to our website. And let's subscribe to the channel. Be happy for that. And until next time, we'll see you guys later on.